I recently had a conversation with Tyler and Alex from the band BXWD about their experiences with anxiety and depression and pursuing music and what music means to them. Tyler's an amazing guitar player, one of the best guitar players I've worked with. Alex is a great singer-songwriter, amazing voice. So I hope you guys will check it out. It's a little bit longer, but I'm sure you'll take something valuable away from it. So check it out.
Hey, buddy.
Yo.
Thank you for having us, Mr. Peter.
Mm-hmm. First off, how you guys doing? Like, what's been going on?
You know, we released our EP late December, and then kind of just decided to hold tight, work on our own stuff, and kind of do the things that we were wanting to write and take care of, you know, and keep pushing forward with that. And then I guess just patiently as we can, wait until we can get into a room and play again. You know, is that a White Claw there?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
I love White Claw, dude.
Yeah. So Alex, what's up with you, man?
I've gathered up such a stockpile of material that I'm just like sick of sitting on it.
Yeah.
And now is a perfect time to record it. So I've been recording with our bass player from BXWD, John. And I just got the first mix back for a single the other day.
What about you, Mr. Peter?
Yeah. What are you up to?
I've been doing this stuff, trying to start a YouTube channel. I've been working on some of my own music, and so I've got a song that's pretty much done and a video for it that's either putting up next week or the week after, maybe.
That's exciting, man.
I'm hoping that like having these kinds of conversations can, be productive. And so I was hoping both of you could kind of share, like specifically what have you dealt with? And then how do you think you being a creative person, how does that play a role in your mental health condition? So I just love to kind of hear what you guys have been dealing with and kind of hear what you think about music and mental health, the way they kind of go together.
For sure. For me, music with mental health, at least from my own experience, it's almost turned itself into this like just constant series of like trials to do things that you otherwise wouldn't have been able to do. Like, it might not make sense right away, but like, I just remember when I started with things, I struggled a lot more with anxiety and depression and attention deficit disorder. So like ADD, anxiety, depression. And it was like, each of those things was like armed with weaponry that tries to take down anybody who wants to be successful as a musician. It was like, the ADD was like, hey, I'm not going to let you focus on getting anything done, and you're going to procrastinate. Anxiety is going to make you terrified to get up on stage in front of people or work with other people or meet new people. And the depression is going to make you not want to do anything at all. So it's like, for me, at least, it was like all of these things were just trying to fight against the idea of being a musician, which I wanted so bad. And so in finding, recovery or not, healing, remedy, whatever, for each of those things individually, it was like the whole directive of that is, okay, what do I have to do for myself to get myself healthy enough to where I can pursue music successfully and sustainably? You know what I mean? Like, what do I have to do to get myself to be able to be around new people, to be able to be on stage, to be able to remain confident, to remain motivated, remain focused? You know what I mean? So
yeah,
I think now, at least at my age, it's kind of turned into the point where it's like, what do I have to do to get myself to the point where I can do this? Because I feel like musicians who struggle with, which are probably most of us, who knows, but struggling with these kinds of things, it's so difficult to maintain any level of consistency and any level of like organization, planning, to just to give yourself a chance to begin with. You know what I mean? Like, it's already hard enough, even if you're all there and no mental health issues whatsoever, it's hard enough to find success in the industry. Right. So it's like, that's kind of what it's been, at least looking at like the big picture of it,
So what effect has the pursuit of music had on those mental health conditions, do you think?
It's definitely a really good question. I think that pursuing music will definitely push all those as far as they can go, because it's going to throw constant rejection at you. It's going to throw like so much doubt. It's going to throw so much worry, so much, ridicule from other people, so much criticism. It's like, it's going to test you. For me personally, it was like, I didn't even realize this until I got better, but I don't think a lot of people realize this, where, people will grow up and have no idea that they would ever be diagnosed as having any kind of anxiety or depression until you know what's on the other side of it. Like once you finally don't feel anxious, or you're, comfortable in your own skin, or your insecurities fade away, or your depression, lightens up a bit, you don't know that it was like that. And then you think back to when you're growing up as a kid and stuff, and you're like, holy crap, I was afraid of everything. Like, wow, that was like, that's what that was. Like, oh my God, I didn't enjoy this. I didn't enjoy this. I didn't enjoy that because I was terrified. Like, I had no idea. So
right.
That's kind of the messed up thing with mental health, is that everyone thinks that they're good. And then when you actually get to be good for a little bit, you realize what good actually feels like. You know what I mean? Totally. But then at that point is where that test comes in with music in general, is that it's going to push you to really like, are you good? Are you sure you're good? Because we're going to tell you that you suck, and no one's going to listen to your music, and no one's going to, we're going to make sure that you know that you suck. Okay. Are you good still?
Yeah, no, that's real.
Yeah,
for sure. It's funny you mentioned that, like, hindsight is 20/20, right? Like, I think somewhere like late high school or early college is when I started going, when anybody ever talks about the symptoms of depression, that sounds a lot like what I experience, like, huh. And I was like, oh, okay. So like, maybe I'm depressed now. And then I was like, oh, like maybe I was depressed like in high school. And then the farther I've gotten and the more I thought about it, I'm like, I don't know, maybe I was depressed in elementary school too. Like it's been this, it's always been there. Maybe, it's hard to say, but yeah, it's more revealing when you finally feel good. You go, oh man, something was not right there.
For sure.
Anyway, Alex, I wanted to bring you into this. Same kind of question to you. Like, what have you dealt with? How does music tie into that for you?
Well, I guess the perfect example would be that first song that you and I recorded together.
When I was just 15, I thought I reached the end. There was nothing left for me, I didn't give a damn. I wrote a note to myself like I said I'd do. He found it and said, son, I've got something for you. He handed me the gun, said, if you're man enough, just do it now. His face was so serious, my tears just hit the ground.
In this life, a lot of people ask me, like, did that really happen? Like, whenever they hear it for the first time, is that about you or is that about somebody else? And obviously the answer is me. I've dealt with depression ever since I was a little kid. Ever since my grandpa passed away, he was my best friend. The person I referenced in that song, he was my best friend. First person that ever took me fishing, and first person that ever taught me, what's life. And when he was gone, it kind of threw me for a whirlwind. And then a lot of things happened to me. And I definitely hear what Tyler's saying about like how music can definitely push that to the fullest extent. That is very true. That is 100% true. I'm not going to take that away from anybody at all, because music is a very personal and a very real thing. But at the same time, I feel like music is also a coping mechanism.
Yeah.
Like I don't mean to get really dark on anybody here, but there's been many times where I've been close to taking my own life. And it's nothing that I'm proud of. But the one thing that's pulled me out of it, and the one thing that's made me realize how valuable life is music. And is art, like you guys know that I paint and I draw and I do all that stuff too. Like art has been the one thing that's most made me feel human. To where I'm not such, like you guys know, I'm in the Navy, I do all this shit, and I've been turned into this sort of US government robot that I'm supposed to, obey this and yes, sir, no, sir, whatever the hell. But at the end of the day, I come home and I take my boots off and I make something that's so organic, and it gives me love for life. And I don't know. And it also goes hand in hand with me being a father too, because I get to show my son that I love doing what I do, and I get to show my real self and show people the real me. But it's like, dude, never be afraid to be you. And one thing that's kind of kept me grounded is, aside from writing my own music and writing more into things I feel and processing my feelings on a paper and into song, is digging back into my record collection.
Yeah.
And really going through artists that I feel like I have something in common with, and learning something about that artist rather than just, picking up my phone and clicking on stream and saying, yeah, this is a good song. I'm actually learning something about people that went through similar things that we have.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of plays in hand with what I said earlier about us not being alone.
Yeah.
The whole community of it, and the whole, like, that's one of the biggest powers of music, right? Is you feel like, hey, this is how I feel about this, and other people are like, wow, I feel that way too. I'm not alone. That's exactly how we all became really good friends.
Right.
We love the music we were making, but then it's like, holy shit, we're all like feeling this crazy emotion, and we feel so alone. But wait a second, let's put a chord to that. Let's put some lyrics to that.
Let's put a chord on
all
there.
Feel exactly the freaking same. But I went on a deployment, and it landed me in Dubai. And I was fortunate enough to have my manager at the time book me a show at the Dubai Mall, which was pretty crazy because it's like the biggest mall in the world. And it was just like me, some nobody that was playing a show. It got to the last few songs of the show, and I played In This Life. And it's a very real and emotional song for me. And it was pretty hard to write, but I played that song. And after the show, this girl came up to me, and she was a Middle Eastern civilian that, didn't really speak much English, but she did tell me that the song actually spoke to her and that she kind of experienced some similar stuff. And she started telling me stories about what happened to her family during the war, during when the Americans kind of took over the Middle East.
Oh.
And it was probably the most powerful moment that I've ever felt in my life as a musician.
Wow.
No matter what stage I've been on, no matter how many people have heard my music, no matter, what kind of connections I've made, that single moment right there, knowing that I connected with somebody halfway across the world that would have never heard me had I not been in that very moment at that very time. That's one thing that really made me realize that, like, no matter what struggle I'm going through, it's worth it as long as I'm putting out stuff and putting out art that people can relate to. It's not an egotistical kind of contest,
Right. Well, I mean, it shouldn't be, but so often that's kind of what it becomes, and that's, I think, a lot of the problem. And that's, my guess is that has a lot to do with why we don't talk about this stuff more, because you're promoting yourself as an artist, and they'll tell you like, oh, you gotta make content, you gotta put out content, you gotta post stuff on Instagram. Like, here's a picture of me playing guitar, here's a picture of my new guitar, here's a picture of that show I played. Isn't all this music stuff so great? But if you went and posted on there about like, dude, I'm not touching my guitar this week because I fucking hate it, right. Or I feel like garbage, like, then, maybe you're afraid that somebody's not going to take you as seriously, or maybe you won't get booked for that show. Or for me, thinking about like, okay, do I really do this? How open am I? If I'm in a depressive phase, I'm not as productive. Go figure. So is advertising that I deal with this stuff going to be career suicide because people are going to be afraid to hire me? Because what if I have a really long turnaround time because, something happened and, shit came up or whatever.
And that happens every day.
Every day, right? And it happens for the people sending me the things to work on and everything.
That kind of goes hand in hand with the video that Tyler put out on Instagram for the BXWD page. He put out a video that said, hey guys, this is what's going on, and this is all the things that we're up to, but we're not putting out really content because we don't want to force it and feel like it's unauthentic, because what's rock and roll about something that's fake?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But it really doesn't mean anything if it's not authentic, and it never has.
Right.
That's why all my favorite records and all my favorite music is from the 60s and the 70s. Like, and I feel like that's why a lot of us, we pull so much influence from the past that we try to revisit it. But at the same time, a lot of people do it the wrong way, where they force it and they don't do it authentically.
Instagram to me is like, hey, here's the best thing of this week, or here's the best thing of the day, or even if it's fake, here's the best. And then it's like, you kind of paint this facade where it's like, if you're not feeling good, you just don't post anything. And if you're feeling good, you post something. And then it's like, everything's great when it's not. And then when you eventually have a video that's like being honest about those kinds of things, it's not like people are like, yo, what the fuck? Like, I'm expecting positivity. People start to support you as a human being because they can feel that you're authentic, and they can feel that you are not being fake with them. Like, they know that you know that not everything's sunshine and roses all the time, you know?
You see so many bands and so many artists these days posting this material that's just what they want the world to see, but not necessarily what the world needs to see. Because right now we're in a state, unfortunately, that we need to see this stuff that's like, hey, we're all going through the same shit.
So another thing I wanted to talk about that's been kind of a ongoing struggle for me, especially recently, is when you're thinking about trying to create this music, trying to release this music, trying to build connections with people, trying to, do all those things we've talked about. There's a million things that you need to do, right? And all of it takes so much time. Practicing, writing, recording, producing. And I regularly feel guilty that I'm not doing enough, or have anxiety about the way I'm spending my time. Should I be working on this project, or should I be working on this project? What's the most important thing? When I'm actually on a role where, like right now, where I'm actually kind of being productive and making things, then it's a question of how much can I do before I burn myself out, So like, now, when do I take some time off, and can I actually take time off and relax, or is that just going to make me more anxious and guilty about not doing all these things I need to do? So how do you think about, goals, or how you want to use your time?
That to me is like the magic thought, the magic question. Like, the amount of time I've spent literally in that exact same mindset is ridiculous. I mean, sometimes more than not, depending upon like what your current goals are and what you're trying to do. And that, maybe if they're trying to get like an EP out, or you're trying to like, sometimes it's worse than it is, at least for me. But that is like the overarching freaking plague thought of all modern day DIY musicians to me, and it's the same thing with social media to me, where it's like, when you see people online, it looks like they're working their ass off and they're hustling, and that like, it looks like they're just doing that constantly. And maybe they're saying that they're doing that constantly.
It's like, either I have to think that everybody's full of shit, or I think that, oh, I'm a slacker, I'm not working hard enough.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Like, for me, it's a little bit of a different thing now. Like, I've kind of come to the point where, as long as I feel like I'm doing something to benefit me, because you just never know where or what you're going to end up being. Right. Like, for me, I took a lot of like personal inspiration from like, it's almost like a thing like Japanese culture, where it's like you decide what your purpose is in life and what you do, and then you commit to a craft, and then your life is just that. Like, that's what you do. And like, you don't need a reason. Like, you don't ask why, you just do it. And like, I've heard that from some musicians as well, where it's like, it's just what we do. And I've kind of adopted that as like, it just is what it is. Like, my life is dedicated to becoming better at guitar and a better musician. Like, and then with production on the side and with other things on the side, it's like that all I want to get better at too. But like, you pick your thing. It helps me like put my mind to rest sometimes, when like, even if I feel like I'm not, pushing out any kind of content, or I'm not working on any kind of release or doing anything that's seeing immediate response. If I'm playing my guitar myself and I'm practicing something and I'm getting better at any particular skill, I feel like that's a good use of my time. Right. Because the alternative would be doing anything else that's not benefiting me in any way. Now, that also begs the question of like, oh, how much time is that? And again, for me personally, like that's kind of why I picked to teach guitar and got involved in that, because, you know, if I have like 20 lessons in a week, you know, that's 20 hours that I'm holding a guitar in my lap. Whether or not I'm playing, some I play a lot, some I hardly play at all, you know, it depends, but it doesn't feel like time wasted because I get a lot of fulfillment, to say the least, and a sense of like achievement, purpose, inspiration, like from that, you know what I mean? But it's always been easier for me to work hard when I have some kind of goal. Like with the BXWD EP, I was putting in like just these ridiculously long sessions just to get everything together, like editing vocals, editing guitars, editing all, like, you know, doing everything. And I was like working my ass off, and it like felt really great because like I knew what had to be done. Like I knew what the answer was. Mm-hmm. And as a musician, I feel like it's really rare to know what the answer is. Like it's really rare to know what you're supposed to be doing. Yeah. But for my guitar lessons, I know I'm supposed to show up. I'm supposed to do my best, teach guitar. Like, cool. For the EP, I knew that I do my best. I work hard for myself and for the band and for all ears listening. Like, I get it. But then you often find yourself most of the time at a point where it's like, what do you do? And for me, at least right now, with my instrumental thingies, it's become a lot easier to hit that, because it's like my little goals. Like I don't know what the answer long term is, but I know that each of these little minute clips that I do will bring me closer to being better at whatever I end up doing. Right. And so that for me has like really kind of helped me keep going, because each little thing inspires me to kind of move on to the next one. Yeah. But when you have this big picture of like a career or something massive, it feels impossible to even make a dent at like what to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Alex, same question to you. Do you have troubles like being anxious about how you're spending time, or feeling guilty about not doing enough?
Yes and no. So I'm not as fortunate as you guys, where my day job revolves around holding a guitar in my hands and making music. You know, I've got a day job, and I can think of one scenario. You know, I'm a songwriter, and that's what I do. But what I do all day is I do this. You know, I tell helicopters when to take off and when not to. And I remember just a couple weeks ago, I was sitting there on Lifeline directing a helicopter what to do, you know, where to go, telling the pilot what to do, whatever. And I'm sitting there and I've got a pen in my pocket and I'm writing lyrics on my hand. Then I come back into the shop and I write these lyrics on paper. Then I come back home, take my uniform off. I put these lyrics to music, and it turns out to be this song that I'm like, holy shit. I guess I don't really feel guilty if I'm not creating anything, because I know if I force myself to create something, like it's going to come out something that's filled with sugar and bullshit that we don't need.
I think with guilt of not doing enough, at least in my experience, comes this like tendency to not feel inspired. It's like when you feel the pressure to create something, you just don't enjoy creating anything. You can't create anything.
Well, how many times have we talked about that though? Like
7.
But seriously, like when we stare at our guitar and we feel guilty if we don't pick it up. Yeah. You know, I stare at a pen and paper and I'm like, dude, you're supposed to be writing. Like, what the fuck are you doing sitting here watching YouTube?
I feel like there's a lot to do that I haven't accomplished that I'm looking forward to. I want to make things that I haven't heard and that no one else has heard. I want to create new things that I can call, you know, my own or our own, if it's Boxwoods or any other collaboration, whatever. That's really special to be able to like want to make something new that's your own that you can share with people. And I think a lot of us, especially myself, I'm getting better at this, but I still am, it's tough for me. I get paralyzed with making stuff. I mean, even, you know, Peter, I've got so much stuff that is on your hard drive that like I've made, I felt like for whatever reason, it's not there, or it's not the right thing or whatever. And then nothing gets released or whatever. When you're on your own, there's no one to just push you through to the next step. There's no one to be like, all right, it's good enough, move on. And so you end up just stuck with creating things. But in any kind of collaboration, whether it's a band or just a collab for a song or whatever, if I'm like, shit, I don't know what to do here. Like all of a sudden somebody's idea from a different brain can spur this whole new thing with you. And it just inspires you to like keep it going. But when you're only doing it by yourself, it's so like self-sabotaging, you know?
Yep.
That's why making music with other people is so important.
Yep. Before we go, I just want to go through like some quicker rapid fire kind of questions. I'll just bounce back and forth between you guys. Start with Tyler. What's your most recent gear purchase?
This. The lunchbox with the Neve and the Robert Neve 511.
Nice. Very cool. Alex, worst show you ever played?
Easy freaking day. So there was this thing back in Iowa, back in Hodunk, Iowa, where the coolest thing that we have is Slipknot. But no, it was this thing called Rock Falls Fun Days. I was hired on to just be like, kind of background noise. And there was just this one old ass drunk lady that was just dancing. I was probably 16. I was still in high school, but there was literally one person just dancing to my music. And it was just like, okay. And then there wasn't even any money to make me feel better. It's like, okay, show up, upload my gear. Oh, cool. One drunk lady. And then I turned around and went home.
We've all played those. Tyler, most epic gear failure during a show.
Does it have to be my failure or can it be somebody else's failure?
I'll take whatever.
John, with your broken fucking strings. He used to break strings all the time during Cherry Road shows. Oh my God.
I remember that.
Drove us crazy.
I've witnessed a few of those.
Yeah. It's like, no, it's fine. It's fine. And then it would just break again next show. No, mine's probably like, with the way that my pedal board was, it took me a while to learn that you could like wrap the cable around something and then plug it in. And so I would kind of like walk and then like step on the cable and it would pull one of the patch cables a tiny little bit. And I couldn't see it. And so one time, like it was like mid solo or something. And I'm like hitting every single pedal. And I find that it was this little freaking patch cable that I had to touch like a millimeter. And all of a sudden my tone zipped back. But it's pretty embarrassing to like go in for like a big guitar solo and then just have no sound come out. And it was the best solo I ever played.
You're making the faces and everything.
Yeah, I'm just.
Well, we got 1 minute. Okay, 30 seconds, each of you. Is there anything you want to plug?
Yeah, okay. Bounty dryer sheets, because we have 5 seconds before it runs out.
American Home Candles and buy my record whenever I decide to release it.
Our band, Boxwood, BXWD, we have a new EP called Lotus. It's out everywhere on streaming stuffs. It's great. We love it. We're proud of it. Hopefully you like it too. Listen to it, please.
Cool. All right. Thanks, guys, for doing this. I hope this is a helpful conversation for people. I hope this was fun, and talk to you again soon. All right.
Hopefully you gained anything useful out of this.
Later, guys.
Thanks for having us, man.
Yeah.
Love you guys.
See ya.
There ain't too many